So I'm going to go back to the same spreadsheet, but we're now going to look at bonuses. So here are my sales bonuses. And this first set of tables here is a sales bonus based on a threshold of $2,500. So if you have a weekly minimum sales, or $2,500, yeah. Now it says here units per week, but is this units or dollars? Doesn't matter. Actually, it is units. So sales based on it should be a threshold of 2,500 units, actually. I'm not going to bother changing this in your table, but I didn't catch that before. So the weekly sales minimum is 1,500 units. For a salesperson to be doing their job, they need to sell 1,500 whatevers a week. And if you get more than 2,500, there's an extra $200 bonus thrown onto your weekly paycheck. So these are raw numbers, just typed in manually. The ones that I have highlighted here. These are raw numbers. The totals which I could highlight in yellow, which is something that I frequently do on my own stuff, they are equations, functions, formulas. This in particular is using the sum function to add up week 1, week 2, week 3, and the row 10 and the grand total. And also in column F, the two different sales associates. I only have 2 people here, but doesn't matter. These 2 people, one got 77 and one got 65. Now you can see this one is in red because it's conditionally formatted that anything that is less than 1,500 a week is going to be flagged. So if I have 1,499, it gets flagged as not meeting the minimum. I'm going to do Control C, get rid of that. So I have some conditional formatting applied here. And you've already seen that, so I'm not going to show you how to do it again. So then how are the bonuses calculated? I've got an if statement. And this if statement says if C8, the week 1 value for associate 1, is greater than 25 or equal to, greater than or equal to 2,500, then return a value of 200. If it's not greater than 25 or equal to 2,500, return a value of 0. Bingo. Where was there greater than 2,500 or equal to 2,500 in the first 2 weeks? There was only one time. Sales associate 1 in week 1 gets the $200 bonus. No other bonuses in that week. No other data above or equal to 2,500. But they both nailed it in week 3. So they both get their 200, and then you add it up or sum it. So at the end of the 3-week period, sales associate 1 gets 400 extra dollars thrown onto their paycheck. Sales associate 2 gets $200 bonus thrown onto their paycheck. And for accounting purposes, for paycheck purposes, I need to know what each person is getting. For accounting purposes, budgeting purposes, I need to know the totals as well. So all of my totals are there. So I'm using the if function to calculate my incentive bonus that I'm giving to my sales associates. And somebody might say, well, that's not very fair. I'm getting, whether I sell $2,499, I don't get anything. And then all of a sudden at 25, I get 200 bucks. And if I sell 5,000, I get 200 bucks. What's the incentive to work past that? Well, hopefully you like your job. Hopefully you want to do a good job, and you're going to work hard no matter how far above the limit or the line is. But this is a very simple example of how you could calculate a sales bonus that is just one category. You either get the 200 or you don't. But you might want something a little more complicated to be a little more realistic. So we've got the exact same scenario, except you're going to get the 2,500 threshold for a bonus, and you do get your $200, but then for every single unit above 2,500, you get an additional 10 cents. So there's an incentive to, once you hit 25, yay, I made my 200 bucks. But I want to do 2,600, 2,700, 2,800, because every 100 I sell is going to be an extra 10 bucks in my pocket. 10 cents per unit. So this is no different. This table is exactly the same with one slight difference. I have conditional formatting that flags red anything below the 1,500 minimum. That's the same. But I also have a second layer of conditional formatting. If I go conditional formatting, manage rules, I have an extra layer of conditional formatting saying that if the value equals 2,500, I mark it green. And if the cell value is greater than 2,500, I also mark it green. With conditional formatting, at least when I did this spreadsheet, there was no way to do equal, greater than, or equal to in one shot. You had to do conditional formatting twice. So I have to do the conditional formatting to say if it's greater than 2,500 or equal to 2,500 as two separate lines, and make the same rules, the same color. It was really quick and easy to do these. And I can turn them off if I want. All I did was go to Home Ribbon, Conditional Formatting, manage the rules based on what I've highlighted, and look at what's there. I can delete them, remove them, or add a new rule if I wanted to. But in this case, I have 3 rules. One, if it's below 1,500, it's red. If it's above or equal to 2,500, it's green. So that's the only difference in the top table. It is a new conditional formatting rule. So then what about this table here? Let me move that down a tiny bit so I can see there. So again, the sales associate gets their 200 bucks for 2,500 units. How many additional units did they earn? None. They didn't get an extra 10 cents because they didn't sell 2,501. What happened if they did do 2,501? They get an extra 10 cents. Did you see that automatically change? They just earned an extra 10 cents. 2,502, they made an extra 20 cents on their bonus. So now there's some incentive. You can get your bonus plus 10 cents per unit on each additional one. If you hit 3,000, hell, that's another 50 bucks. The sales associate 2 knocked it out of the park on week 3. They got an extra 75 bucks, an extra 275 on top of their normal paycheck for having a really good week. And you can set up the rules any way you want. So let's look at how this worked. If M9 is greater than 2,500. Then I'm going to do an equation. And here's my equation. My equation is take M9 minus 2,500. And in this case, that's 0, right? 2,500 minus 2,500 in cell M9. It's 25, well, actually it's 2,502 now. But before I made it 2,502, it was just 2,500. So now it's actually 2. M9 minus 2,500 is 2 with a change, times $O, the letter O, $5. What's in O5? That is a fixed reference to that 10-cent bonus. Plus 200, because everybody who gets that 2,500, you start at 200. You get a 200, boom, bonus immediately. I could leave that out and say, all right, you know, you get 10 cents a unit, period, after your minimum. After your 1,500, I could just give you 10 cents per unit. There is no big bonus. It's all just incremental, 10 cents a piece after your 1,500. I can create anything I want. If it does not meet the criteria of M9 being greater than 2,500, I don't return this small math problem, the answer to this small math problem of M9 minus 2,500 times 10 cents plus $200. I return a value of 0. And what does that give me? $200.20. What if, and I'll just do this scenario, what if my scenario was, I'm not going to do this 200, I'm just going to say anything above 1,500. If it's above 1,500, then I'm going to say M9 minus 1,500. So the first 1,500, there's no bonus, times your 10 cents. So I'm going to get 10 cents for everything above 1,500, period, no $200. I'm changing the rules here just so you see how it might work. For every one, the logical test, everything that's greater than or equal to 1,500, I'm going to give a bonus of 10 cents per unit. And that, how do I calculate that? I take my value in M9 minus my 1,500, which is all that I'm not getting the 10 cents on. The difference, I multiply times my value here, which is 10 cents. And what's that now? All right, if I'm just getting 10 cents a unit above 1,500, I'm only getting $100 or $100.20. It's a smaller bonus that way. But let's go back to the normal one. Let's go back to this as being 2,500 as well. And the beauty of something like this is let's say we negotiate and the group negotiates for an additional 2 cents per unit, 0.12. It's now 12 cents. All of these have automatically adjusted. If I do 2,501, I now get 12 cents for that 1 unit. So having a fixed cell reference like this, pointing to a negotiated bonus number, I change that one number, and it doesn't matter if I have 10,000 values below, they all are updated immediately if I use proper functions in Excel. So very, very quickly and easily, this whole table here, again, if I were doing this on my personal work, I would make that all yellow so I don't touch it. In my normal way of doing things, my mental signal, yellow means it's got an equation or function in there or something that I shouldn't touch unless I really, really want to for some reason. I got to know why I'm doing it. And you'll notice that there aren't zeros here. There are these little lines rather than zeros. Why is that? Well, if I look at the values that I have here and I go to font group and the number type tab, it is formatted as an accounting number, an accounting cell. And so in accounting, rather than putting a 0 in, zeros are immediately interpreted as a small hyphen or dash, like this. Just visually, when you're looking at a large sheet of numbers, zeros are visually confusing. It's harder to pick them out. These little dashes are much, much faster when you're looking at lots of data all day long. It's not just a little better, it's way better when you're looking at large sets of numbers. Zeros are harder to spot by a lot. And so that's why they do this for accounting. So there's another example of using actual functions, simple sum functions, and if functions. And in this case, an if function with a small nested equation. It's not a nested function. This is just a simple equation as my result. What is my result going to be if the logical test is true? If the logical test is true that the sales associate made greater than or equal to 2,500 units of sales, then the return in this cell, the value in this cell, will be this equation. Just subtract the units sold in M10 minus 2,500 times the fixed value for each additional unit, 10 cents or 12 cents, whatever it is, plus 200. Don't forget the plus 200, because that's their baseline. Once you hit that 2,500, boom, you get 200 bucks. Woo. Okay. Comma, otherwise, you get 0. All right. This kind of thing happens in sales departments across the country every day. Now, are you going to do that in an Excel spreadsheet like this? Maybe. Maybe you've got a higher end accounting and payroll package that handles these things differently. So in payroll, in a very small business, maybe you would do something like this, maybe not, because there are a lot of small business payroll programs. And I would argue that this particular example, doing sales bonuses, I would do something like this for a what if to work out what would be a good sales bonus, but I'd probably use a payroll tool rather than Excel in the real world. Okay. Although people do it all the time, a lot of people do things like this. And so Excel does their calculations because some payroll programs, it's really hard to do this. And so in a payroll program, somebody would just have to manually input a bonus number. And all the payroll program is going to allow you to do is input a bonus number. And it's not going to allow you to tie that to all of these numbers. How many sales units did they have? And so in those cases, yeah, this is an awesome tool. And so there are a lot of companies kind of in the middle range that might use not only a payroll tool for the actual payroll, but Excel to calculate this. And then once you're done calculating this, the payroll folks would manually install these numbers into the payroll system. So that's it for this lecture.